Civil rights leaders. Meet Malcolm X. This is the table of contents. It tells us all the things we're going to learn about in this book. I also want to point out that this book is a biography. That means it's a book all about a person. And that person is Malcolm X. So we're going to learn all about the real person, Malcolm X, and his life. Meet Malcolm X. In 1965, Malcolm X gave a speech that shocked America. He said that African Americans should use any means necessary to get freedom. This suggested that blacks should use violent actions to gain equality. Malcolm's ideas were different from those of other leaders of the civil rights movement. He went against Martin Luther King Jr.'s idea of using peaceful protests to gain equality. Malcolm's belief that blacks could improve their life by using violence angered a lot of people. Many agreed, though, and Malcolm became one of the greatest civil rights leaders of all time. The civil rights movement is the name given to the African American struggle for equal rights. It began with Martin Luther King Jr.'s protest marches in the 1960s. Malcolm did not want people to hurt each other for no reason. However, he believed that violence was sometimes necessary to fight inequality. The early years. Malcolm Little was born on May 19, 1925, in Omaha, Nebraska. When Malcolm was young, his father often spoke out against segregation. Segregation is the belief that black people and white people should not be together. They should go to different places, use different drinking fountains, not go to the same schools. Since Malcolm's father spoke out against it, many members of the Black Legion were upset by it. This angered the members of the Black Legion, who set fire to the Littles' house in 1929. When Malcolm was 6, his father died. Then his mother got sick, and Malcolm had to go live with another family. Despite his troubled home life, Malcolm made good grades in school. He even wanted to be a lawyer. A teacher, however, told Malcolm he should not try to be a lawyer because he was black. After that, Malcolm lost interest in school and quit at age 15. The Black Legion was a group whose members believed white people were better than other people of other races. The Black Legion was known for using violence to scare or harm African Americans. The Ku Klux Klan, or KKK, shown here, is a group of whites that is against blacks. In 1924, the KKK wanted to hurt Malcolm's father because he was against segregation. In 1940, Malcolm moved to Boston, Massachusetts, where he lived with his sister. He took a job shining shoes at a dance hall. Malcolm was doing well, but he started getting into trouble with his friends. Soon he began selling illegal drugs. Malcolm moved to New York City in 1943, where he continued a life of crime. Malcolm robbed people and gambled illegally. He made a lot of money by selling drugs, robbing, and doing bad things to people. His days of crime would be over soon, though. Malcolm moved back to Boston in 1946. He was caught there and was sent to prison for 6 years. While in New York City, Malcolm X lived in a neighborhood called Harlem, shown in this picture. Making life changes. Malcolm hated prison. One day he met a prisoner named Bimby. This meeting changed Malcolm's life. Bimby encouraged Malcolm to educate or teach himself by reading books from the prison library. Malcolm listened. He even took classes by mail. Malcolm's brother, Reginald, told him about a new organization called the Nation of Islam, or NOI. The NOI is a group that practices a form of the religion called Islam. Reginald thought this religion might help Malcolm. While in prison, Malcolm joined the NOI. Islam is a religion founded in the 17th century by Muhammad, a religious figure. People who believe in Islam are called Muslims. They follow laws that are set down in a book called the Quran. Elijah Muhammad, shown here, was the leader of the Nation of Islam during Malcolm X's lifetime. Muhammad became Malcolm's mentor or teacher. The Nation of Islam. The NOI is a black religious organization. Its members are called Black Muslims. The NOI is different from Islam because its purpose is to make life better for blacks. The NOI used to believe that blacks should be kept away from whites. It even wanted blacks to have their own nation because it believed all white people were bad. When Malcolm joined the NOI, he changed his last name to X. He was a very powerful speaker, and he soon became a leader. Newspaper and television reporters followed Malcolm to hear his ideas and his speeches on racism. X stands for an African American's real name, which has been lost when he became a slave. A slave was usually given the last name of the person who owned him. As leader of the NOI, Malcolm X made many speeches across America. Here he is giving a speech in Washington, D.C. in 1962. A trip to Mecca. In 1964, Malcolm X went to visit Mecca, Islam's most important place in the Middle East. There he saw Muslims of all races or all colors being friendly to each other. He learned that true Muslims believe all races or all colors of people are equal. This changed Malcolm's mind about the NOI's teaching. He no longer believed that all whites were bad. Malcolm still thought, however, that whites in America had too much power over blacks. After Malcolm left Mecca, he visited other African countries. He realized that Africans had suffered through the same struggle. Malcolm decided that blacks all over the world should join together to fight racism. The OAAU. Before going to Africa, Malcolm X had a disagreement with the leaders of the NOI. He no longer believed they were doing their best to help blacks get equal rights. After his return, Malcolm left the NOI. He formed the Organization of Afro-American Unity, OAAU. The OAAU's chief purpose was for all blacks to be able to take care of themselves without white people's help. It wanted blacks to control their own life. The OAAU promoted black pride, schooling, and the importance of voting. It encouraged blacks to keep themselves safe from racist people, even if it meant using violence. Malcolm's book. Malcolm X's ideas about violence scared many people. Malcolm wanted people to better understand him and his ideas. He therefore worked on a book about his life with a black author named Alex Haley. It is called The Autobiography of Malcolm X. Malcolm's book presents the problems blacks have suffered under a government controlled by whites. It also tells how Malcolm X rose up from poor beginnings to a respected leader. Malcolm's book tells African Americans they should be proud of being black. It also tells them to never stop fighting for equal rights. Alex Haley, shown here, wrote the autobiography of Malcolm X based on meetings with Malcolm. His book became a very important African American work. Unafraid. Malcolm X knew he might be killed because of his actions and his strong beliefs. Before he left the Nation of Islam in 1964, several members had wanted him dead. Malcolm had become too powerful and too famous. The NOI did not like that. Malcolm knew his life was in danger, but he continued to speak out. On February 21, 1965, Malcolm had just begun to speak at the OAAU meeting when shots were fired. Malcolm X was shot dead. Many believe the men who killed him were members of the NOI. They were sent to prison for their crime. This is the hall in which Malcolm X was killed. It is located at the Audubon Ballroom in Harlem, New York City. Symbol of Black Pride. Malcolm X was one of the most powerful leaders of the civil rights movement. He often used violent words and encouraged violent actions. That was his way of getting people to listen. Once people listened, they could better understand the problems blacks face. In the end, Malcolm wanted Black freedom. He believed Blacks could gain freedom if they fought for it. Malcolm encouraged Blacks to take control of their own life. Malcolm taught Blacks to respect themselves and their history. For that reason, he is known as a symbol of Black pride.